Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another year of the Coach's Corner. After a long battle with COVID, I'm back here with my partner, Jay Horrigan, and to my left, the coach, Ian Bain. Guys, welcome back. Welcome to a new football season. I'm hoping everybody's glad to get back out at it, and let's get off and running on this. Coach, just briefly on the spring season and taking away what is the number one positive that those seniors got a game in. What's one or two things you can take away that's going to help you this year with that spring season?
Yeah, I think, looking at the spring season, we were forced to do some things differently. I think it forced us to be more efficient with how we used our time. So just looking at some of those things that roll over to here from a coaching standpoint, I think we've streamlined some of our processes behind the scenes. I think we got better with scouting on short notice, those kind of things, roster management. So I think a lot of those things that we had to do out of necessity in the spring, we've kind of continued as a best practice. So that kind of stands out. I think also, I've wanted for a long time, for Massachusetts high schools to have some form of spring practice, obviously not taking away from lacrosse or baseball or track, but something, and I feel like we sort of got that, and what a great opportunity for everybody to, I don't really necessarily want to play another 7-game season in the spring, but even I think we proved like we could safely and effectively navigate having some sort of official team organized activities in some sort of prior to the fall period.
It was almost like a college spring season.
It felt,
except 7 games.
It felt that way. Yeah, instead of having 10, 12 practices, it was long, and it was deserved for especially those seniors, like you said. But it was nice to sort of see that, and hopefully, I know we're still navigating some COVID stuff and figuring that out, but maybe in the future we could go back to that and say, well, what worked with that, and how can we maybe create something for our kids in the spring without taking away from other sports, of course.
One of the things we had talked about in the past was maybe a little bit of concern with the kids having the spring season ending when it did and bouncing right back for a regular fall season. What have you done, first of all, just to adjust your camp to address that, and how have the kids bounced back?
Yeah, especially, what comes to mind is some of the players went from basketball right into football, and if they weren't basketball, then they went football right into their spring.
Yeah.
And their spring lasted until July.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you have, throughout the summer we had, you got this college showcase, you got that showcase, you got kids playing lacrosse all over the country, and now that, instead of being over a couple months, was really in the month of July.
Yeah.
And so, just trying to be aware of that, knowing our athletes, having them feel empowered to communicate how they're doing. I don't think we did any major changes to the practice. We had thought about it. We wanted to see how it went, but just being more mindful of, things that have been studied using GPS and things like that, where like day 3 is, usually the number 1 soft tissue day, like in the NFL or in college, because that's the day where the overuse kind of comes in, and just maybe trying to manage the days where not going 3 consecutive early on, making sure, and also making sure our summer program address those things, so we didn't have to come in and hammer in a ton of stuff in 3 days. We were already in pretty good shape, I think, and obviously we'll find out Friday how good a shape we're in.
Right.
But we didn't adjust too much of our practice, but I think it's just more being aware and cognizant of how those things can add up, especially, like I said, the soft tissue overuse type of injuries.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get back into the gym finally in the summer, or at least some form of the gym, and then you roll right into August training camp. You start off with the Ashley camp, regular practices, a little scrimmage with Ashley, and a scrimmage last weekend with Holliston. You added some new coaches. Tell me about the summer. How'd the summer go?
Summer was awesome. I think the town did a great job. Right away. And I got this sense too, even in the spring season, that the town of Franklin was very dedicated to getting us a season, getting kids back in the building. I don't think that we were not being cautious, but at the same time, I think there was a great deal of pragmatism that went into everything that we did. So when we got to summer, and we didn't have to wear the masks at first, and that was great. Obviously, as we got closer to school starting, I understood that decision, and we rolled with it. but being able to get in and lift, and obviously we had some numbers things that we had to adjust to in certain things, but I think the town did a great job working with Coach Masto and Coach McLaughlin, and then obviously subsequently I'm sort of the next in line with that, and getting our guys, and not just football, but the soccer teams, the field hockey teams, all the, I want to say we had 500 athletes in our summer program again, and we had a ton of great coaches, so we were just able to do that, and so that was great. I felt like we didn't really miss a beat. It was just maybe a little shorter, but again, with the late spring and all that, that was just kind of inevitable.
How about the new coaches?
New coaches have been great. Obviously, there's a learning curve with everything. I think a lot of the new guys, they're obviously making a great positive impact. I think our kids really like the new staff members. I think they're getting more comfortable too, which is important. Trying to make sure they feel like they have my support in anything that I can do to help them, but also giving them a bit of autonomy where they feel like they're putting their own fingerprints on it. It's not just me, it's us. And that's always something we've tried to do. I think all of the coaches, and obviously we lose coaches. That's part of it. But I think when coaches have left here, they've genuinely felt and said that they've left here as better coaches. We helped them to get better. We gave them tools, and I think as we have a new staff kind of here now, I think we're seeing that with the new guys, and really excited to hopefully get some continuity. But that's again that's life. The real world calls, and you got to go to work, and that is what it is. But I really like the young. I think we had a good balance again of young and veteran, and we're on the right track with our staff.
How does your team, the players, especially the older kids, Tracy, Aroni, those guys, help with new coaches? I'm sure they play a huge impact on them. How have you talked to them, your captains, so on, about making these new coaches feel comfortable?
Yeah, that is a big thing, and our coaches in the past even have said that. Certain players like Ryan Vickery, who's actually coaching with us now, when we've had new coaches, they would say, Ryan is helping me out learning the defense, and maybe it was Friggy with the offense and Coach Burr, and so that is a big part of it. It's so much of what we do. It's our culture. It's so many things, and I say this a lot. Like we get comfortable, and we start to kind of get implicit with our instruction, and it's like, all right, here's what we're doing. And you don't go down and strip it down to every single detail. It's like, this is how we do it. I'm not going to explain everything. And obviously, with new coaches, you need to be more implicit with that instruction. But our senior leadership and our junior leadership and sophomore leadership even, they can help fill in some of those gaps. Maybe just out of human nature, you kind of forget, I do got to say how we stretch. And something I don't think about maybe. Or, like one of our coaches was like, Coach, what's our cadence? I was like, oh yeah, I probably should tell you our cadence. All right. So things you don't think about, those seniors help fill in those gaps and sort of help establish your norms and your traditions.
So to stay on the leadership, just a couple words on your captain.
I think the number one thing we just look for is dependability. And what's tough, this year, and we dealt with it a couple years ago too, is where there's a lot of kids I think that could be captains. There's kids that we haven't named captain. They would be fantastic captains. And they still might be named a captain. But the number one thing is just dependability for being around the team and being with the team. I mean, like I said, we have so many guys, and I think our guys that aren't named captain yet, and they understand that. It's not a slight. Heck, I really think we could name about 10 captains for tomorrow, and we might by the end of the year. We really could. I believe that strongly. But I think that's the number one thing. The best ability in our program is dependability. Can we depend on you, rely on you? There are certain people we just don't have to worry about when the door's close to the facility and they're home, or if it's, hey, you have Sunday off. Obviously, that's our kind of mandatory day off for most weeks. And if they're dependable, I think that's the number one thing that we look for.
Do you make, just knowing you a little bit as we've gotten to know each other over the years, the culture, and you almost every time you answer any question, culture comes up. Does that almost empower all these seniors to be captains? Yeah, there may be the guy that goes out for the coin toss, but look at you guys are all building this program for the people behind you.
Yeah, I think that's a given, and I think we've seen it, and I think that's been the case the last few years. It's been really strong. I think when those kids become the drivers of your culture, and it's not so much you know, like the first year, and this is just kind of leadership 101, you have to do a lot of telling and a lot of showing.
Yeah.
All right, and then as you kind of progress through, when you can start to kind of delegate those responsibilities and those expectations, I think that's really good. And even when our guys make mistakes, and our seniors make mistakes, our leaders make mistakes, we all do. I make a ton of mistakes. People like to let me know about those mistakes. But we make mistakes, but they're the first to know, like, I messed up, and I shouldn't have done that. You know, not make an excuse, but right the situation, and know how to communicate, you know, that, and I think that's important too. It's not just about being perfect every day, and you know, it's kind of a transcendental thought where it's the pursuit of perfection rather than the achievement of perfection, because achievement of perfection is impossible. But if you're constantly seeking it, you know, that's going to bring you to great places, and you know, so yeah, it's important. It's great to see our guys. I think they all should feel empowered by it, and even some of the young guys, like you hear, you know, we mix a lot of our practice. We don't just isolate sophomores, freshmen. Like it's very intermingled, and you can see even in the freshman grades, the kids that came all summer and really got a sense of how we do things and why we do things. They're taking leadership roles within their own kind of niche of the team, and I think that's really great.
Absolutely. So let's jump into the season. 3 new faces on the schedule. Usually we start off with Andover. They're gone. We got Wachusett, Duxbury, and Brockton. Newcomers to the schedule. How did they get on the schedule?
Well, first, just as a league, we shuffled things around. So, for example, you know, people will notice we're not playing KP twice like we had normally done. So in the Hockomock, they sort of canceled out that Thanksgiving Day game in the regular season, and cut. What's up, bud?
Go.
What you need?
I don't know what team I'm on.
We're not on the team.
Yeah, we're just.
That's live
Do I
TV
wear a
for you.
mask?
You gotta go ask your coach, but I think
Coach
you're
over
okay.
there.
I don't see anybody else wearing a mask.
That's live TV for you.
It's all good. We're not soccer guys. That's all right, man.
Kevin Puckle will draw anybody into anything.
Anyways,
New
sorry.
opponents.
Yeah, so as a league, you know, usually we had played 2 non-league games. Now we had to schedule 3. Plus, you know, we're gonna have a bye week in the middle of the season because, you know, the Hockomock crossovers, not everybody got a crossover. Us being one of them. You know, Stoughton was fortunate to get Brockton that week. We did not find an opponent yet. We still could. But anyways, that opened up an extra non-league. Andover had moved on. They had a commitment with the team from Florida, so that kind of left us out. And then basically because of the league restructuring and not knowing, you know, we kind of, like we had some thoughts. We were going to play St. John's Prep or Barnstable, and just with the new statewide system, we just kind of hit reset. You know, we didn't know if we'd have a weight room. We didn't know what we would do, so we just kind of said, all right, let's reboot. And then once kind of everything settled, and we knew we had 3 non-leagues, and technically we should have a 4th if we can pick up an opponent. It was who was out there, and you know, right away, Wachusett. That's a Division I opponent. Really good team, good tradition. Obviously, Brockton, Division I opponent, great tradition. Somebody that we're familiar with. We played them, you know, the last 2 regular years in the playoffs. And then, you know, again, that week 3 game was hard to find. Duxbury needed somebody to play. We needed somebody to play, so it worked. And we'll go there. And each one is a 2-year commitment. And then, you know, after 2022, we'll see kind of what it is. And like I said, there'll be a bye week. I think week 6, unless that would be like when we typically had played King Philip. I don't know if they found a game or not, but obviously, like I said, we did not find somebody to play. So right now we're on the old bye. But we'll see. You know, by then, who knows with COVID? Who knows? Maybe we need the bye week. Maybe we don't need the bye week. So, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We'll just stay focused on week 1.
You mentioned obviously the reshuffling of the Hockomock League, how it affected your schedule and not playing KP twice. There's a new playoff system in place this year. Not just for football, it's for all sports.
Right.
But football is really going to be impacted by it. Thoughts on that? How do you look at things going forward? You can't just look at opponents in the South. You've got to look at statewide.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't care about the playoff system because, I mean, you got to take care of business right away, and to even think about that. I think being Division I mean, obviously, it opens up the door. For example, there was never Division I Western Mass, there was never Division I or II Central Mass. So like Wachusett, who's Division I, and they're a great program. They've always been Division III, for example. So like we would have never played them. Springfield Central, another team. Then you have issues with different Catholic schools. Did they move up? Did they not move up? It's just, there's a whole mess of things. I don't even know how the ratings are going to work. I don't think anybody really does. Maybe they do. Maybe I just haven't paid enough attention. But, I understand that there's going to be some challenges, but at this point, I don't care. Like
You're just happy to be playing.
No, I just want to win the games that we have in front of us,
right.
and that should be our only concern. I know some people like to look and say, well, the rankings have you here, and if you do this, like I don't really give a hoot. Like let's handle the game in front of us while we got it, and that needs to be our only focus. And anything beyond that, that's just when you get into trouble as a coach, as a player, as a fan base. We got to focus on Wachusett, and then I know what our schedule is, but I'm not really thinking about Brockton like the next week either.
Right.
And it's not this week. We need to focus all on Wachusett. And then whenever week 7 comes around and we play that final game, whoever it even is, I don't know off the top of my head. I think Milford. Then we'll look at the playoff thing, and the chips will fall as they may. But if we stay focused week to week, that'll work itself out. And those games, that can be rat poison, if you will. Like it's not good for you.
Agreed.
But yeah, it'll be different. It'll be interesting. Could be exciting though. I think I know I've heard some teams I think Mansfield and KP played each other in the D2 South multiple times. We played Brockton back-to-back years.
Yeah.
One of those years we played Attleboro, who we had already played. So I think there are some positives in that where the likelihood of that happening, although it still could happen, it's maybe less because there's more teams, more variety, which is kind of cool. I don't think anybody likes to play somebody twice or even 3 times. It's happened at different times in our Wild West playoff formatting that the MIA gives us. I think there was a year Holliston and Westwood played each other 3 times in one year.
Yes.
And there were probably some other teams. So
and there were teams that played each other week after week, 2 games in a row or 3 games.
Yeah. So, it is what it is. So,
Good.
So looking at the Hawk this year,
Yeah.
once again, another strong class for the Hawk. It doesn't seem like any teams take a week off. Milford, KP, Mansfield, all going to be strong this year.
Mhm.
How do you approach that with your team? It's just a week by week. Whoever's in front of us, whoever's at the door that day.
It's week by week, and and even Taunton, they have everybody back. I feel like, and they should have beat us last year. Attleboro's got a ton back, and that game was a lot closer than maybe. We got one late, but that was a tight game all the way up to they blocked the punt even. Like that was a tough one. So I think everybody's good, and the teams that were the top 2 graduated a lot, but both those programs reload. So it is week by week, and the thing is too, you can't compare scores. Like there are years and games where we've had a tight one against this team, and then somebody else blows them out, and then we lose to that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so much about matchups, and it's it's a season of attrition every year. Who can be healthy, who can manage their rosters, who can manage those games, and it's not easy. But yeah, it's just week by week, and that's all you can do. But our league's great. And then a great non-league on top of it. You hope you can just get through 1-0 right now, and then
Well, you've chosen non-league opponents that are always at the top of their leagues, respectively. So, you're I think kind of what you're doing is trying to prepare the kids for whoever they're playing down the road. Still the same philosophy?
Yeah, I want us. I think our players and our staff and everybody in town, we want to compete at a high level. And I think the first couple years, we weren't there. We not that we tried to schedule easy non-conference, but we would kind of maybe avoid certain teams, and I don't think we're there. I think it's we know the challenges ahead, but if you want to be one of the big dogs, you've got to play a big dog schedule, and that's a part of growing as a program and maybe taking the next step here. As we move forward, it's complacency can't set in, and our day-to-day can't set in with our schedule. And I think too, win or lose, we've done a lot to kind of open some eyes and say, that would be a good game to put on the schedule. Maybe we can start playing those kind of games. So it's a great opportunity. a great challenge.
So Wachusett brings themselves here Friday night, 7 o'clock. What can the fans expect?
Yeah, Wachusett is a great tradition. You know, I was fortunate to play with some Wachusett kids in college, recruit a handful of them. Always terrific players, super well coached, very disciplined. You know, they do what they do and they do it great. They've got a very talented quarterback, fullback, running back, receiver, a great split receiver. Like I said, they'll be big up front. It's kind of hard to tell like who's who. Like maybe we don't have as great a feel for exactly this personnel like we do with teams we are familiar with, and especially being game one. You know, who graduated, who came back. You know, I like to think we have an idea, but you never know too. People move, people transfer, people get bigger. You know, so but we exchanged scrimmage tape. We obviously did as much of our research as we could on Wachusett in the off season. Whether that's, you know, I think everybody in the state had games on YouTube. Everybody in the state pretty much uses Huddle and has highlights, and so we were able to sort of paint a portrait of what we expect. Obviously Friday anything can happen, anything can go, but I assure you it's a really good team. It's Central Mass. They're a school that's as big or bigger than Franklin, now Division I, and it should be a heck of a game on Friday.
Jay? That's great. I think, just like you said, it's good to get out there, face some of these other programs that you haven't faced in the past, and it's evident in the schedule that you put together that's kind of what you guys are doing.
Well, the one thing you will not see Friday night is you will not see or hear me sing the national anthem again, like at that last scrimmage. Hey, look at Friday night, 7 o'clock, Wachusett right here. That's the place to be Friday night. Football's back. The Coach's Corner is going to be back every Wednesday at 5:30. So for Jay Horgan, the coach Ian Bain, and myself, have a great football week.